Good evening, everybody. My name is Bob Mercier. My group members a chance to introduce themselves.
I'm Raymond Ventura.
Osman Cissé.
I'm Tom Agrazia.
Okay, and as you can see, our group topic is data mining. And give you a brief outline of our presentation today. First, we'll begin with a very brief definition of data mining, and we'll explain how data mining works, and we'll do some advantages of data mining, disadvantages of data mining, summary conclusion. At the end, if we have some time, we'll have a question and answer segment. What is data mining? Some definitions of data mining is the process of analyzing data from various perspectives in order to summarize it for useful information. It can be used to discover intelligence in data warehouses, blinded by reports and queries. Intelligence is acquired from patterns and relationships found in data. Internal factors would be price, the position of the products in the store, staff skills. Some external factors used for data mining would be economic indicators, competition, and customer demographics. If you can think, whenever you swipe your debit card at a grocery store, or whenever you have an online transaction, or maybe use an ATM, that information is stored within that organization's database, and then use that data for strategic information. Here we have some history of data mining techniques. As you can see, in the 1960s, when computers and tapes and discs were first being introduced to the masses, the product providers was IBM and CDC, and characteristics was retrospective static data delivery. In the 1980s, it advanced to questions like what were unit sales in New England last March, and the enabled technologies that helped organizations fulfill these queries were relational databases, structured query language, and the product providers were Oracle, Sybase, Informix, IBM, and Microsoft. In the 1990s, you have the invention of data warehouses and decision support. And the questions that organizations were trying to answer were, what were unit sales in New England last March, drilled down to a specific area like Boston. And technologies that allowed this were online analytical processing and multi-dimensional databases and data warehouses. And today you have data mining, which is what it is today. The questions that are being answered is what's likely to happen in unit sales next month. So the latest data mining technologies helps you almost predict what will happen in the near future using stored data. For the purpose of this research, it's necessary to distinguish the differences between data, information, and knowledge. And Carter defines data as information, often in the form of fact or figures, obtained from experiments or surveys, used as a basis for making calculations or drawing conclusions. A good definition for information is definite knowledge acquired or supplied about something or somebody. Another definition for information would be collected facts and data about a particular subject. And knowledge would be defined as general awareness or possession of information, facts, ideas, truths, or principles. Or clear awareness or specific information, for example, of a situation or a fact. Here's another definition of data mining. Data mining defines as an automated discovery of non-obvious patterns of interest that could have an impact on a particular organization's bottom line.
And have a microphone.
Okay. If you could take, for example, like an organization like Walmart would go through their data to see every time young men my age go to Walmart, they usually buy a particular set of products. Like if I go to Walmart, I buy Gatorade and deodorant. So if they see that in their data, they can actually put those two items together in plain sight view of the customer, so that way they wouldn't have to look for it, and therefore increasing their revenues.
concept of data mining is growing in popularity in the realm of commerce, business activities in general. But it's kind of a misconceived or misunderstood topic. And I want to give you an idea of what data mining is all about. Basically, we're in the information economy. And what you have is more and more data being generated in every aspect you can think of. Every time you swipe your grocery card, when you try to get a discount for buying whatever products, that's data being downloaded to a database. On most transactions you do, there is some sort of data download. Organizations are storing, processing, and analyzing data more than any time in history, and that trend is going to continue to grow. So what is data mining? Data mining is the incorporation of quantitative methods. We'll call them mathematical methods. That may include mathematical equations, algorithms. Some of your prominent methodologies are traditional logistic regression, neural networks, segmentation classification, clustering. Those are all methods that utilize mathematics. Data mining is applicable across industry sectors. Generally, wherever you have processes, wherever you have data, it is the application of these powerful mathematical techniques, in cooperation with some statistical type of inference testing, they call it, that will extract trends and patterns. Now, I teach a course at NJIT, Data Mining for Managers, and I go over this. The first half of the course, I give students a very good understanding of what data mining is, because to be honest, many people don't quite understand it. So it takes a full half a course to provide that understanding. What are these mathematical techniques? But just as important,
this is a video together that we see a couple of minutes of videos and we'll have it full on the EDD, so we can have more.
Okay, 5 basic concepts in data mining would be to retrieve, transform, and load data into a database, usually a data warehouse. And a data warehouse is just a central place where all the information, where all the data is inputted or outputted from within an organization. The next step would be to store and manage data in a multi-dimensional database system. The next concept or aspect of data mining is you would have to have business analysts and IT professionals to manipulate and use the data in the databases. And the next step would be to analyze the data with application software. And the final step would be to present the data in a human interface so humans can understand it.
All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about how data mining works. The main method used in data mining is called modeling. Modeling is used to make predictions, which is basically the main goal of data mining, so that you can make predictions after you have all your data. Models are based on mathematical relationships, usually between independent variables and dependent variables. Models are taken to a situation with unknown answers. So because you want to make predictions, you usually don't know what the answer is going to be. That's why you're trying to make a prediction. And the idea is to use independent variables to predict the outcome of a dependent variable. And normally, once you have all your data, you can manipulate the independent variables so that you can predict the reaction that that dependent variable is going to have. So there's 4 basic steps to data mining, and they are association rule learning, clustering, classification, and regression. And then after those 4 basic steps, there's one more stage, which is called validation. And validation is basically you trying to make sure that all your 4 steps are working properly, and that your data mining is actually giving you the results that you want. Okay, so association rule learning is pretty much the process of data collection from a broad customer base or consumer base, and it's self-explanatory. You're pretty much just gathering data. All right, just gathering your data. You're not doing much right now except for gathering it. The next step is clustering. This is the step where you're gonna group together patterns that are similar. And pretty much groups or families are formed for the first time. And this is what we see here. So you're pretty much grouping together data based on a certain similarity or pattern that you detected. Classification. Once you have groups formed, then the next time you get data into your process, you can go ahead and just send it to the groups that you already formed. So that's pretty much what classification is. This is done based on similar characteristics or traits. Then the last step is regression. After the first three steps, you can now formulate a function that's going to help you make predictions. It's pretty much the process of using data to design a function that can be used to model the data for final use or targeting. The new function predicts the behavior of the dependent variable based on changes to the independent variable. And then companies can use regression to predict how customers will react when offers are made based on purchasing patterns.
Well, as we can see, data mining has a lot of advantage. I'm sorry. These are the three reasons why data mining is important, because companies can increase their profit, save money, and improve their efficiency. How they increase their profit? Most companies use data mining to avoid mistakes in their business. They save money using data mining because it can reveal different ways the company can get rid of unnecessary costs. And finally, they use software to assess and analyze the data, so which help them to be more efficient. These are some of the industry that use data mining. I can't really think, when I was in my research, of any industry that didn't use data mining. It's so big and so important now. Now let's talk about crediting, how data mining works in crediting and banking. Most of the financial institutions use data mining to assist people with their credit card or their loan process. With data mining, companies can get access to credit reports and people's loan information. So this pretty much helps them to know which person are good candidates to be accepted or be offered each type of loan. Data mining is in law enforcement. Data mining is important because most of the law enforcers use it to find information about criminals, find their records on where the crime happened, and they look at different behavior about a criminal using that database. In insurance, for example, with data mining, insurance company can help people avoid fraudulent behavior. Help the company detect all these people that have fraud, that have passed with fraud and anything like that. So by doing so, they can classify, like you say, they can classify people by different groups, and they use that to pretty much write their insurance policies. In transportation, data mining is important in transportation because public companies, or public companies can use it to find traffic jams. If there is any traffic incident, they can actually predict the travel time. So if you travel and you see all that information on the road and all that, they're using data mining to get that information and then get that available for people. In medicine and healthcare, data mining is important because it can help medical professionals find therapies for different diseases, and also help them to manage the risk because if you have like nurses and everybody, they can get that information quick, and they can know exactly what are different patterns and take a decision, and help people as quick as possible. The big thing about data mining is customer service. Like we talked about, if you go shopping and you have a credit card, there's a lot of information that they can get out of the credit card. Usually, the company use data mining to find what is your purchasing behavior. So if you, I'll take an example. When my wife had a baby, just the next day, we just kept having mails, about babies, how old is he, and everything, all information. They have everything. I wonder how they got the information. But I guess the fact that we went to the hospital, we give that information there. They knew exactly what was the baby's sex, where the baby was born, what was the doctor, what kind of procedure was you know, the data you have to go through. Sorry.
15 minutes, just let you know.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm gonna close it up. So you get information from customer service management.
Along with positive, there's also negative parts of data mining. As with all technologies, it's up to the user of the technology to decide whether or not they're going to use it in a positive or negative way. Data mining can be used negatively in social, ethical, and even illegal ways. What seems to bother people the most ethically is that companies are taking information from the consumer and using it to build a behavioral profile on them. This scares people as these companies are coming up with these profiles without ever having any kind of human interaction with the customer. Furthermore, this information is being sold to other companies that could benefit from such profiles without the consumer ever being aware. So there's something about having one's personal information just spreading from company to company that's kind of making people uneasy about the whole thing. The biggest problem is technology usually comes before the law, and data mining is a perfect example of this. Since this is a relatively new technology on such a large scale, the negative aspects of it are just starting to be seen. It will take some time before official laws are put into place to protect the sharing of consumers' profiles. Just as with downloading of music and movies, at first there was nothing illegal about it until the law stepped in to put a stop to it. Though as with downloading of media, even after laws are put into place, people's privacy will still be intruded upon. The internet is extremely vast, and tracking down perpetrators can take time. It's consuming and difficult to prove over the internet. Privacy can be seen as the biggest issue with data mining. Data mining occurs without the consumer ever being aware of it. Customers do not realize when they give out information that even though it's a private company, they could be storing it and other companies could eventually find it. What happens with this given information varies from company to company. Some may use the information in order to better suit their customers intentionally and internally within the company itself. So there's two types of data mining in the business industry, internal and external. Casinos are a good example of using internal data mining. By tracking a person's activities within the casino, they're able to see what types of games that particular person is playing. This person then can be offered coupons and incentives for such games they're interested in, and this allows for personalized marketing, which will capture consumers' attention better than a generalized incentive program. Other companies, though, are looking to make money by selling this information to other companies. This is just the opposite and is considered external data mining. It is the fact that this information is being stored and used without the consumer's consent that is a large breach of one's personal privacy. With today's computing technology and the capability to store huge amounts of data electronically, it is easy to see why companies are taking full advantage of data mining and how it can intrude on one's personal information. Although internal data mining benefits both businesses and consumers, the problem lies in security. Many companies today simply don't have the security in place to protect the customer's information and the profiles that they create. These profiles can be leaked to the public, causing one's personal information to be available to anybody with a computer and internet access.
All right, to conclude, we had a video, but of course we don't have time left. But as you can see, data mining is used very abundantly today. I know one prominent example that most everybody within our generation is exposed to is on Facebook, is that they use data mining with the information that you provide on your profiles to advertise particular ads to whatever you put on your profile. So I know when I was playing football during my undergrad, all of my ads on my Facebook profile were geared towards college football. As I stopped playing, they weren't, but I can understand why you would do that, because it'd be kind of weird to send me women products to buy when I'm obviously not a woman. So
Data mining. We'll have 1 minute to ask questions. Yes. Here, just a second.
Are there security or privacy concerns? And do you think, are people complaining about that? Is the government performing any kind of legislation?
I mean, obviously there are security concerns, but I know, like I said, Facebook on their security portal says they're aware of the information being stored, so they're telling you to be careful what you put on there, and they're saying be careful what games that you use, because the information that you use through those games are external organizations, and they can sell your information to other organizations.
Not one.
Do you think that the, you know, like just a couple weeks ago that the iPhone and Android both came out and said about like they're tracking all the information? Do you consider that a form of data mining?
Yeah, I mean, it's a form of data mining. Because data mining is any kind of transaction that you do that's stored in a database, and then they use that data for some kind of strategic planning. You know what I'm saying? So if you, whenever you swipe your credit card, or even any kind of transaction that's stored in a database, it doesn't even have to be considered a monetary transaction, but any kind of transaction that's used to store information about you to make strategic planning to advertise towards you would be some sort of data mining.
Any other questions? All right, so stand together and take a photo of the group, and then we'll give you a hand, and then that will be it for you. So just smile, and it will be one photo this way. Thank you.